All right, looks like it's 9:30. Denise, let's want to move forward? I know you do. We have a lot today. Again, welcome to everyone who's joining us. This is Joanna Riegel from KMJ Consulting, and on behalf of the Eastern Transportation Coalition, we welcome you to today's Traveler Information Web Summit, Innovative Capture and Dissemination Data Used for Traveler Information. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get to the presentations. We are using Zoom webinar for the first time for a TIS meeting, so welcome. With Zoom, you can use your computer for audio, or you can use your phone, and that information should have been provided to you in the confirmation email. This web meeting is being recorded. It will be posted to the Coalition website. If you have any questions about the audio or the web, if you can please contact Esther directly, you can use the chat box or you can email her. So since we're in Zoom webinar, we have two different things. We have the Q&A box and the chat box. We're going to ask you to put any questions for our presenters in the Q&A box so that we can keep track of those, and we'll answer them as we go along. The chat box, we're going to ask you to use that if you have any technical issues or if you need to contact a Coalition staff person. In Zoom, asking questions is simple. Just click on the Q&A and type your question in. So they're going to be monitored. We have our wonderful co-chairs today. We're going to be monitored throughout, and questions will either be answered between presentations or at the end of the meeting. If you would like to ask a question verbally, you're able to do so. You're just going to scroll down. You're going to click on the participants button. You're going to scroll down and click raise your hand. We'll see that your hand's raised. We'll unmute your line, and then you'll be able to ask your question. We just want to remind you that once your line's unmuted, you'll need to mute that again yourself when you're finished. This time, I'd like to turn it over to Denise Marco, who is the TSMO Program Director for the Eastern Transportation Coalition. Denise?
Thanks, Joanne. Can you hear me?
Ken.
All righty. Welcome, everyone. I think this is the first of two. Typically, we hold two biannual meetings for the Traveler Information Services kind of program track. And so based on some feedback that we had gotten last year on the November roundtable, this is the topic of innovative capture and dissemination of data used for traveler information that we've brought forward for you today. And we hope you enjoy the presentations. Next slide, Joanna. So very quickly, we do this in every meeting as a coalition update. Before I turn it over to the co-chairs, these are some of our recent meetings that we've had in February and March. We always have every four times a year, we have the Redis user group meeting. That's one of our highly attended meetings. It showcases how agencies are using that platform. We've also been working collaboratively with Waze, the Waze product team and engineering teams out of Israel and New York City to improve the data transfer and integration that were from the agencies to Waze, as well as helping them improve their product. So we've had two workshops in February and March. Mostly every agency was present and represented, and now we're working in a technical working group to continue that collaboration. We recently, on March 11th, had something called a TVER, which is a tolling violation reciprocity group. They had a mobile app vendor forum, so they brought in vendors to talk about how each of their own mobile apps work. That was on March 11th. And then just last week, we had a cab workshop. It included some freight discussions. It focused on some AV pilots, some transit work, and some freight work that's being done. The two core meetings we have upcoming for the coalition, we have a strategic planning session on April 14th. That's where we outline our goals, what we did last year, and then look at and get feedback from our program committees on what we want to do this coming year. And then again, we have our quarterly Redis user group meeting. TDADS, what that means is a traffic disruption and disaster statistic data project we're working on. We involve the steering committee with that meeting. That's where we're building the national congestion pie chart. So if you want any more information on that, please feel free to email me. But with that being said, next slide, Joanna. I think I'm going to turn it over to Mary and Kelly. Mary, I think it's up.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And can we have the next slide? Because I do better with running through the agenda. As you probably know, Kelly and I are the co-chairs for this really active committee, and we've got a pretty full agenda today. So let me run through the agenda, and then we'll proceed along. So welcome and introductions. I think I don't think we need to go through my bio and Kelly's bio. I think they might be available in the materials, but if not, we can circle back and let you know. But getting into the actual substance of the summit today, we have a really great lineup of speakers and presenters, and you'll see a variety of different types of innovations that are going on up and down the corridor. Well, I guess I don't know if we call it a corridor anymore, but the region. So we'll start with automating social media notification in Maryland, and that'll be Rick Dye from the chart system. He's the chart system administrator at Maryland State Highway Administration. Then we'll hear from Russ Holt, who's the principal civil engineer at Rhode Island DOT, and he'll be speaking about Rhode Island's wrong-way driving systems, and experiences to date and a promising future. After that, Paul Cooper from OptaSense will speak about high performance and reduced cost traffic monitoring using fiber optic sensing, and this will be in a Georgia locale. Next, John Parker with the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission will be talking about what else is up our crowdsourcing sleeve. So that's a very attractive title, and we're all interested to see that. And then Amy DiRusso from Florida DOT will talk about traffic signal situational awareness dashboard, specifically after the Hurricane Sally landfall. After that, there'll be a wrap up. Kelly will do the wrap up, and we will at the end of each presentation will allow for questions to come through in the chat box or over the over the audio and video. So unless I've missed anything, I think we can go to the next slide, and just some metrics on today's event, just to show you that you're all in very good company. We've got 150 registered attendees representing 19 states, so it's outside of our coalition, or outside of our coalition boundaries. And there are representatives from a variety of stakeholder and interest groups, obviously state DOTs. We have Turnpike Authority and toll authorities. We have MPOs. We have federal agencies, universities, as well as vendors and consultants, because as we have learned over the years, these advances in technology and innovation and crowdsourcing and everything else really require partnership from both the public sector and the private sector. And so it's very good to see the collaboration that's happening there. And again, you'll hear more about that as we move on to today's substantive program. Next slide. So these are our honored speakers today, and I believe, but Kelly or Denise can correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we'll do is introduce each speaker before they give their presentations.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So that we don't get muddled, or so I should say, so I don't get muddled. So let's start with our first presentation of the day, and that will be from Rick Dye, automating social media notifications. And let me give you a few words about Rick. He's the statewide systems administrator for the Advanced Transportation Management, Emergency Operations Reporting, and Lane Closure Permitting Systems for the Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration's Coordinated Highways Action Response Team, or CHART. Rick is responsible for the design, build, operation, and maintenance of the software and network connecting over 80 different operation centers for over 36 agencies. Rick served in a similar statewide role in Colorado and a metropolitan system in San Antonio. Previously, Rick was an intercontinental ballistic missile commander in the United States Air Force and has a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer and Information Sciences from the Florida State University. So we've got a lot of geographical diversity there. So with that, let me welcome and turn the proceedings over to Rick.
Thank you, Mary. Can everybody hear me? Am I coming through?
You sound good.
Excellent. So thank you. And thank you very much for inviting me to give this presentation today. As Mary said, I'm the systems administrator for our emergency management systems that we have in Maryland, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I want to start the presentation talking about how we are organized for our traffic management within state highway, so you get an idea of how we function before I get into the very specific how and why did we automate our social media notifications within Maryland. Next slide, please. So what is CHART? Well, CHART is the Coordinated Highways Action Response Team. It's been around since the late 80s, and it's our real world application of our TSMO that we're all working on around the states, but it's focused on safety and efficient movement of people. Next slide. Our mission is going to be very similar to the other states that you hear today, but we want to improve our mobility and safety for users of Maryland through application of ITS technology and interagency teamwork. So, we basically are looking for incidents that are happening on the roadway. When we are notified or notice them ourselves, then we try to send out the appropriate first responders to more quickly get them cleared, and then also notify the public to lower those chances of secondary incidents happening. Next slide, please. Our organization is not unique, but is rare. We're really organized like the federal U.S. Department of Transportation. So we have the Maryland Department of Transportation, and then we're broken up into primarily modal administration. So we have transit, motor vehicle, port, aviation, transportation authority, which is our tolling folks, and then the State Highway Administration. Within State Highway, we're also a little bit, once again, not unique, but on the rare side where we're not broken up within the districts. We're set up like a lot of DOTs. You have planning and engineering, you have administration, you have operations. Our operations actually splits into two separate deputy administrators. One manages our 7 district offices, and then the other one takes care of the other traditional traffic operational type things: office of maintenance, office of construction, materials and technology, traffic and safety, and then us in the Office of Transportation, Mobility, and Operations. So we report directly to a deputy administrator and have a statewide reach. Next slide, please. Because we do reach so far and have such a large statewide responsibility, early on, we decided to set up a board of directors that meets sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly. We're currently in the quarterly schedule, where the district engineers that have major CHART presence in their districts, the director of the Office of Maintenance, the director of the Office of Traffic and Safety, Maryland State Police, Information Technology, all the people that have a large impact in what we do, all meet as members of this board of directors to make sure that we're not just in this one simple focused traffic operational area, that we actually have the input of planning and finance and other areas to make sure that our program stays successful in its statewide reach. Next slide, please. We have quite a history. We've been around since the late 70s, when we were primarily focusing at the time on trying to help people reach the beach in the summertime. And there's a long story. It's a different presentation, but there's a long story of how the governor at the time got a hold of the state highway administrator at the time and said, our people are sitting on US 50 in traffic rather than being down at the beach, being happy and spending money. Fix that. And Mr. Kassoff at the time said what a lot of DOT leaders would have said, which is, sir, our responsibility is designing, building, and maintaining the roadways. If anyone at all operates them, that's probably the police. Which point Governor Schaefer said, you really should find a way to operate it, or I'm sure your replacement will do so. And Mr. Kassoff saluted smartly and said, yes, sir. And that really began our close interaction with the Maryland State Police and others, trying to figure out how can we operate this road, the roads better. So that just, I'm not gonna go over all these, but then, we started with regional centers, and then we opened up in the mid 90s a statewide center. In the late 90s, we started developing our own software and maintaining our own software. Next slide, please. We kept growing, and then we started looking at new things, travel times, 511, 24/7 patrols. So we've been moving and doing new things quite often as it's moved on. Our mission has grown, and it's grown in scope, and it's grown in physical geography. Next slide. The teams that are involved in that are my team, the systems integration team. So of course we get top billing, but we have regional operations. We have a traffic management center operations. We have, of course, program planning people, ITS people, and our newest division is the TSMO division. I'm trying to make sure that we have an eye on connected and automated vehicles. Focus areas I kind of mentioned earlier that, we're looking for those incidents. We're trying to make sure we notify the public. There's a severe weather contingency to what we do. So like I said, our mission keeps growing, but it keeps growing and has a lot of public eye on it. Next slide. The Statewide Operations Center, this slide has been something we've been proud of for a long time. It opened in the mid 90s, and it's a very large 24/7 typical traffic operations center looking facility. Right now, if I were to show you a picture, it would all be torn down and under construction. We're completely renovating that. So if I come back in 6 months, you'll see a very different slide. But that's really our 24/7 center. That's where we have a full-time state police liaison. That is really where we have our 24/7 view of the world. Next. And then we have our satellite operations centers. They are traditionally at state police barracks, but we have a Western region, we have a DC region, a Baltimore region, and an Eastern Shore. Next. We do an annual performance evaluation to make sure we're doing good stuff. And that good stuff has turned into more than 690,000 assists since 1990, more than 415,000 incidents, and an annual report that is separately done by the University of Maryland, not by us, shows over $1.3 billion in delay in fuel costs. So we're definitely, people are getting their money's worth out of our program. Next slide. And this is why. If you go back and you look, it's been almost a straight line of more events, more events, more events. And this slide actually has caused us some problems, because there have been times that politicians have come in and said, we've given you more money, we've opened up more centers. Why are these numbers not going down? It's kind of hard sometimes to explain that those incidents were always there. We're just being able to respond to more of them because we have a larger geographic view, and we have more centers and more response vehicles. But that also means the public is much more aware of us than they used to be. Next slide. So the four major systems that I'm responsible for that serve this area are the Advanced Traffic Management System, which is what we're going to talk about more today. But there's also a lane closure permitting system, an emergency operations system, which is more maintenance related, plow related, hurricane related, that type of thing. And then all of the World Wide Web integrated mapping, other types of things that help these other three systems be displayed to the public. But we primarily want to talk about our Advanced Traffic Management System today. Next slide. So we have an advanced traffic management system where, like I said, we're trying to determine what's happening on the roadway. We're trying to get the first responders out there that are needed as quickly as possible. But that third aspect is notify the public. And the way we've tried to notify the public in the past was we would notify the media, we would have a public website, but more and more users want to have traffic information sent to them rather than go to a website and look for it. It kind of makes sense. Well, the Office of Communications in both the headquarters, MDOT, as well as the State Highway Administration had formed multiple Twitter feeds to provide information. So, things you would expect, departmental initiatives, major construction projects, And then if there's a major planned or unplanned roadway event, they would tweet about that as well. So that's good. But the bad aspect of that was the expectation of the end users. When people on Twitter are getting information from you, they feel like you're sitting in front of them and you're their friend and you're telling them, here's exactly what's going on and here's exactly what's happening. But events can last for hours and hours depending upon what's going on. And sometimes the public affairs people want to go home. So they're not a part of our organization. We have operators. We don't have actual Office of Communications people assigned to our center. So it turned into this issue of, if we're going to initiate communications with the public, how do we continue that communications with the public? Next slide. So when we looked into that, we thought, well, we could have our operators just be the Twitter users as well. But one, they're busy. Talk to any of your operations center people, they'll tell you that they are extremely busy, and they are. The other thing is we also have some of our operators who are, college degree engineering type people, and we have some that are high school and some that are GED. They learn specifically how to be an operator. But once you start sending out tweets or sending out information, then you're speaking for the administration. And that tweet can easily end up on Channel 11 News. So if we're going to do that, we need some additional major training for our operators. So rather than start with that, which may be how we eventually go, we said, could we do anything in the meantime to make it quicker and easier and maybe slightly less risky for the administration? So we created something within the system called a major event. Not a particularly creative idea, but if there's a major event, that's what we want to tweet about. So we are able in our system to actually explain what a major event is. So in this case, this is one of the rules I pulled out for you, that currently if there's an incident out there, not construction, not congestion, but an incident, and it's on an interstate highway or a US highway, not on a small state road or a county road, and if there's more than 50% of the lanes closed, then the system knows that it needs to go ahead and tweet out something for that. Next slide, please. So what we did is, keep in mind, that's what's currently in the system, but privilege operators could change that. You could go through any one of our types of events in the system, from action events, which is like signals, something we need to take an action for, signals on flash, remove a dead deer from the road, something like that, to congestion event, disabled vehicle event. Any of those could be selected to create a new rule for something that we want social media to tweet. Route types, currently it's interstate and US routes, but we could add state highways, county routes, municipal, other public routes. We could add those and we could change the amount of lane closures. So we could create multiple of these rules so the system knows when it wants to send out a tweet. Next slide, please. The other thing we try to make sure we do anytime the geeks like me get involved in modifying the software is there's a lot of engineering specific speak that we use in what we do. So anytime we try to communicate with the public, either on the website or sending out text messages or sending out tweets, we try to have an automated way that we can tell it, if you ever see this particular thing, make it look like this when you tweet it out. So we have rules that help us do that, since we're now speaking to non-engineers. Next slide. And then of course, anytime in our system that an operator is doing something, the system will pop up, what is the standard operating procedure that applies to this, in case there are other rules that they should know about. So anytime those social media rules are enacted, it pops up a standard operating procedure page for the operator to make sure that they're doing everything they should be doing. Next slide. Okay, so how do these work in our ATMS software, and how does the operator know that it's tweeting? Well, when an operator first logs in, they get a page that shows them, based upon where you said you're working, here are all the events that are happening at a very high level, so that you can just have a high level look at what's happening out there, where it's happening, how long it's been happening, that type of thing. Next slide. Now, if you were to click on any one of those, it brings up incident details. Now, this is an incident that happened last week, so I threw it in there. It was less than a mile from my house. We had a tanker truck actually roll over and catch fire, and it was quite the event. And our ATMS does things like most of the other ATMSs you'll hear about. It tells you what happened, where did it happen, who notified us, how far is the queue. This particular case, the overall incident is I-70 East prior to exit 68, Maryland 27 Ridge Road. It's eastbound, it's a collision, it's a fatality. That's what we know at State Highway Administration. But if you look at the bottom, the event tells the operator that this incident has met the rules and most recently tweeted out at 7:16 in the evening. If you look at that, it says incident I-70 east prior to exit 68, Maryland 27 Ridge Road eastbound, 1 of 3 westbound, left lane, left shoulder, 3 of 3 eastbound, both shoulders, all 3 traffic lanes closed. So we're not telling them it's a fatality, but we are giving them detailed information that is more human sounding when they get it on their Twitter feed. Next slide, please. Now, if I'm an operator and I just logged in, well, what if I want to know all the tweets that have gone out? I can easily bring up the history within the event, do a quick search for social media, and you'll see in this case that the event at 15:02 is when it was able to meet the rules to go ahead and start tweeting. And initially it said I-70 East prior to Bill Moxley Road, and then it showed the traffic lanes closed. Well, a minute after that, somebody decided, well, Bill Moxley Road is the closest street, but that goes under the interstate. Actually, that's not the exit. Let's reference this in a way that it meets the exit, closest exit. So somebody changed it to I-70 East prior to exit 68, Maryland 27 Ridge Road. So as soon as they made that change in the ATMS, the system recognized it was a change, and it does meet the rules for tweeting, and so it sent the tweet out. And then later on, you can see that both shoulders were actually closed. And then later on, a left shoulder opened. And then later on, actual lanes started opening. So as the operators make changes in the ATMS, all this tweeting is happening automatically in the background. Next slide, please. Now, the people still get what they've always liked. They still get their real-time map on the website. And the real-time map on the website means they can click on cameras and view the live cameras. They can see what's happening on dynamic message signs. They can see what's happening with overall traffic flow. That's still there. Next slide, please. But they now get their tweets. Oh, they love their tweets. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's a 511 Maryland, MD 511 state. And the account's used to automatically tweet major roadway events and is not monitored. If you want the monitored account, please, and then it points them towards the state highway account that Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30, someone is there. And you can see down at the bottom, that's one of those tweets that happened for that particular event. Now on the right-hand side, I went ahead and clicked on that at MD-SHA, and I found on my phone that they had retweeted what we had tweeted. So they had retweeted that event, and then they tend to add things to it. Like they'll put on a picture that they've got or something else. So we've got the best of both worlds at the moment. If you want the quickest tweet that doesn't wait for a person to get there, then go to the MD 511 state. And then if you want to know more information that's being given to you by a human, you can go to the other at MD-SHA site. Next, please. But they not only get their tweets, but what we're happiest about is that long after any humans go home, the MD 511 state automated Twitter account keeps tweeting. So if you look on the bottom and go up from this, you'll see that this is a different event because I wanted to have one from beginning to closure that had happened earlier in the day. So there was a tweet showing on 695 outer loop at exit 15A. There were 2 left traffic lanes closed. And then another tweet came through showing that all lanes were open. And then a final tweet comes through saying cleared. So anytime we finally clear the event within the ATMS, they get an actual cleared. So it's not perfect. It's not, I can get involved in your questions. You can't respond back to us, but there's a way to quickly and immediately get the information out there. And then if you want a person, there's another link you can go to actually get to a person. So it's not perfect, but in general, this has been going since about 2017, and we're pretty happy with it. Next slide, please. And that is the end of my presentation. Have any questions popped up?
Yes, this is Mary. We have 2 questions in the chat box at the moment. One from Steve Novosad says, where are you currently housing your state operations center while it is under construction?
Okay, I can answer that live. Do I click on answer live or do I just talk?
I think you can just say it, but
Okay.
I would defer to Joanne.
Maybe we're okay. So the answer to that is we took over a large training room in the building in the back of our complex, and then a couple of other smaller offices we turned into. So our actual operational folks have a small training room with lots of computers in it, and they're making do. Now, keep in mind, we have our traffic operations centers that do most of the day-to-day work out in the areas where they go. So we have our one down in the DC area, one up in the Baltimore area. So they're still there, but the SOC is actually just in a training room. And we took over enough space around there that we could also have our management for the operations folks there. And then luckily we had a pandemic, so everyone else went home anyway. So it's actually worked out relatively well.
Thank you. Yeah, now the Q&A is starting to light up.
Yeah.
We have from Sal, can the annual report be shared or the link to it somewhere online? Also, the 2013, 2014 in that graph showed a significant increase. Any determining factors such as new center or new data, et cetera? I guess you'll answer.
I'll type in the link, and the link not only shows the most recent report, it shows all the reports. So you can actually go back in time and see how it went. Yeah, there are reasons for that jump up. The primary reason for that increase is we opened up a brand new operations center. So there were events that were happening that we weren't a part of. And so now we're a part of them. We have more response vehicles, and we're working in an area that we didn't used to work in before. So yeah, that was that thing I brought up about the legislators. Sometimes they'll say, we gave you a new center and new trucks. Why are you not giving us fewer actual events out there? It's kind of a catch-22 to explain that sometimes.
Okay. So I guess that was a live answer then, and you'll forward the link.
Yeah, and I will type that one as well.
Okay, great.
I'll type it and put it back in.
Super. Another question from Steve. Does your 511 do any social media activities, or is it all done by chart?
Well, 511 is also done by chart. We have a 511 phone number that you can call in, where currently you get a voice that reads to you the major events that are happening. But that has become so underutilized that we're actually in the process of getting rid of it. The sheer number of people that pick up the phone and dial 511, we tried to keep it for the longest time just to make sure that the people that still have flip phones at least have something. But we have seen such a decline in that we are actually going to end up keeping a 511 website and sending out to social media and trying to engage in other types of social media. But we're actually going to end up canceling our 511 dial-up number later this year.
Okay, progress. Thank you. And then another question from Sal. I apologize if I missed this part, but is the Twitter feed for incidents the same as the department's official Twitter feed, or something specific to incidents statewide?
It's specific to incidents statewide. The MD511 traffic is just automated tweets coming from us. But if you're a follower of that, on the main page, it tells you, here is the SHA Twitter account, and it is manned from Monday through Friday, these particular hours. If you want a person to respond back to you, that's where you need to go. So it tries to let people know that this is an automated feed to more quickly get you live information that's happening in a consistent format.
Great, thank you. That is all the questions that are in the Q&A. And I don't see any raised hands, but I just before we stop this portion, are there any other questions or comments for?
That was just me saying answer this live. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and one sort of editorial comment. Are Steve and Sal the only ones who ask questions?
Mary,
Yes,
this
yes.
is Denise. Steve and Sal are the only two that we paid money to ask questions.
Oh, geez.
Oh, that hurts me.
Yeah. Well, now that we've cleared that up, I don't see any other questions. This was very informative, and I'm just amazed at the progress that's been made in communications over the years, because as your presentation pointed out, we can have all the incident detection and response in the world, and if we can't provide the people that are impacted by it with timely and updated information, it doesn't go the full, we don't get the full benefit out of it. So this is some real cutting edge innovations that you're doing there. And unless there are any other comments, I would like to again thank Rick and thank Marilyn Short for all the work they've done over the years. And we would maybe move on to the next presentation. So thank you, Rick.
Sure.
All righty. So now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to move up to Rhode Island, and we're going to talk about the wrong way driving systems, experiences to date and a promising future. And Russ Holt will be the presenter. Let me just give you a few words of background about Russ. He's a principal civil engineer with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. He's assigned to the Highway and Bridge Maintenance Division's Transportation Management Center in Providence. Since starting work at RI-DOT in 2003, he's been responsible for managing and reviewing projects and efforts to improve traffic safety and operations on Rhode Island's roadways. Some initiatives that Russ has led include the development of a TSMO performance measurement plan for both the state DOT and MPO, the rewrite of and updates to Rhode Island's traffic design manual, and the creation and establishment of Rhode Island DOT's work zone safety and mobility policy. Before joining Rhode Island DOT, Russ worked as a research assistant at the Virginia DOT's Smart Travel Laboratory in Charlottesville. Russ graduated from Clarkson University in New York in 2001 and the University of Virginia in 2003 with Bachelor and Master of Science in Civil Engineering degrees respectively. He served as president of the Rhode Island ITE chapter from 2009 to 2010. He's a registered professional engineer in Rhode Island, and he grew up in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. Welcome, Russ.
Thank you, Mary, so much. That was a long introduction. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen. Before I do, I wanted to say, Rick, that was absolutely excellent for me to hear all the details of what you guys are doing with your data and the rules for what you share out with data. I mean, that's just, it's cutting edge. You are nice to share. Just give us insight on what your agency is doing with that. I learned a lot just from that. So I'll be following up with a call to you at some point. Thank you for that. And let me share my screen here. Okay, if someone could please let me know when you can see my presentation, that would be great.
I can see
We
it.
see it.
Okay, I'll just get it up here. Okay, great. So thank you for the time today. I'm glad all the folks who are on here appreciate your interest. Denise asked me to speak potentially about wrong way driving systems in Rhode Island for the TIS session. And at first glance, I was like, that doesn't make much sense because this is really a safety focused project. You know, it's not really a data traditional ATIS type thing. But the more I looked into it, there is aspects of it that are travel information. So appreciate the opportunity, Denise. And I'm going to go pretty quick through a few slides at the beginning and then more discussion at the end. But why is Rhode Island DOT using these systems? Well, we're a TZD state. We believe in that, and we have safety advocates who are thankfully really pushing for just any fatality is just unacceptable. I know everybody on the line hopefully agrees with that. It's how do we get there is the issue. So wrong way driving crashes, we probably know a high proportion are severe, fatal. It's just a fact. So we also know that distracted drivers, older drivers, impaired drivers, the numbers are increasing. Impaired, maybe COVID related, but older, people are getting older. That's a good thing, right? But people are more distracted than ever, as far as I'm concerned. So those are real issues for us. So back in 2014, our safety folks did a comprehensive study of where, when, and why are these crashes happening. And so we found, probably not surprisingly, mostly in the urban areas where most of our traffic is and most of the demand is. And then the hours, you know, late night to early morning hours. Is that surprising? You know, probably not. Again, the bars are closing and people are getting on the roads. But we did that study, and then we did a more detailed analysis where were our highest risk locations. And the police really helped us with the state police with what citations were issued, not just where crashes happen, right? Where were close calls and things like that. So we did that. And then The first thing we did was the low cost type improvements. This is not ATIS here, but it's static signs. If you're a traffic engineer, these are things that have been done for many years. And we're even in Rhode Island, we needed to make improvements just on these. So lowering some of the signs you see in this example to the closer to the pavement so people can see them, retroreflective strips on the panels, things like that. These are the low cost things that we did, and we believe it had some positive impact. But after that, or during that, I should say, the safety team still said, no, we want to do more. And we want something that's intelligent, can provide some type of active feedback to wrong way drivers, right way drivers, et cetera, to try to get better, minimize our fatalities and injuries. So we work with the state police again. We identified 24 pilot locations in 2015. All these locations are limited access. So freeway type facilities are nearby. There's no wrong way systems, like downtown on a one-way circulator. We're not handling that here. It's all limited access facilities, as you'll see. But key functionality of the systems, we were looking for provide active illuminated signs to alert wrong way drivers that they're going the wrong way. That was a key first component. The METC has allowed that for years now. So we said, hey, why don't we try that? The second part was notification to responders. So the TMC and the state police, and even local police in some cases, set up a system to have an email or a text alert, or use the application to get an alert that there's a wrong way driver detected. And finally, the using other means of ATIS type stuff, so changeable message signs, or as Rick showed, Twitter and things like that. This is the way things are going. Use the ITS to help provide information to people. And I'm going to highlight that last bullet here because later on at the end of my presentation, I'm going to show that there's some interesting input there with our CMS, changeable message signs, and the status of what we've done with those. So real quick, I'm not going to go through the whole design. I'm not an expert on this either, but these systems are basically roadside pole mounted. There's a controller there. Right out, it ended up selecting a TAPCO company out of, I think it's Wisconsin. They offer this kind of solution system, which includes pole mounted radar communication detection, or it can be thermal detection systems to detect the vehicles going the wrong way. The flashing sign, obviously, is the enhanced sign, they call it. The control cabinet, inside which there's a cell modem to do the remote communication, or fiber connection if you guys had that. There's an illuminator at site to illuminate the site for the camera that's going to take photos of the offending or wrong way vehicle. And then there's radio communication to poles across the street. So that this other signs can flash based on the master unit. This slide is from TAPCO directly. It just shows, if you didn't know how the system operates, a quick description of how it does. A wrong way vehicle hopefully will be detected in that alert activation zone first. The first thing that happens is the signs will flash to try to notify them that they're going the wrong way, and then give them a chance to correct and turn around. Hopefully, the best case that happens. Worst case, it doesn't happen, and then people will keep going. And when that happens, those detection units, whether radar or thermal, are there to detect that and send the alerts to the TMC, to the police, so that they can take the following actions, as I'll show in a minute. Just real quick, another slide from TAPCO. They had the best illustration of this, I thought. On the right side, when there's complex ramp geometry, which Rhode Island often has, meaning there's an on-ramp that's right next to the off-ramp, some of the radar technology has had a problem detecting or not false detecting wrong way vehicles. So TAPCO anyways is promoting more of a thermal unit, the thermal detection units. They claim that's better at not having the false positives. I'll touch more on that in a minute. Real quick, there are design issues. If your state hasn't yet done this, some of you guys have. If your state hasn't done this yet, every site is unique, and it's not necessarily just to throw it on the ground. It seems easy to do this. We had some issues with power, obviously with solar panels. We tried to make it all off the grid, and we had some issues with we didn't get enough sunlight in there. So we had to look at direct power connections. We have subsurface utilities at some locations. So the point is, it's not necessarily an easy peasy, just put it in. You do have to do some design to put these in. The false positives, again, I keep mentioning it, but that has been an issue for us. And I'll just share a few more information in a minute on that. Currently, so we have 28 sites throughout the state. Again, all limited access type facilities. This slide shows the communication kind of options that TAPCO anyways would share with you as an agency if you haven't worked with them yet. And on the right hand side, the option is there to have the alerts or the information, the data go right into your ATMS. So like when I saw Rick Dye's beautiful systems he's got, the amazing systems, you know, he, for all I know, Rick, you may already have this. You have a direct connection where alert is detected, it goes right into the system, and then you can do automated things, whether it's sending messages to signs, sending tweets out, whatever it may be. That's kind of the I would argue the best way to do it. However, in Rhode Island, we're on the left, and there's reasons for that. We haven't done a great job of managing all our fiber everywhere. We're still working on that. And so we also are looking for just a turnkey solution. We don't yet have an ATMS at RIDOT. I should say a bona fide, you know, advanced ATMS. We have great systems that work well for our operators, but it's not a true ATMS as others understand that term. So, so we chose the option on the left here. It's a turnkey solution. If you go this route, you get everything. You get the BlinkLink software for 2 years. You get web cell service for a time, and then there is an API that's offered by TAPCO now that can be there. 5-second latency you might see there. That's key to notice. Every second counts with wrong way drivers. You guys know that, you know, in 5 seconds, somebody's going, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 feet. And then somebody coming the other way, you double that distance. I mean, things happen so fast. You'll see in a minute how that's been an issue for us. But the BlinkLink web-based device manager, excuse me. I want to show this quickly because if you haven't used the system yet, this software offered by TAPCO, we find is very helpful. It does a lot of things. It allows you to manage the devices you have, manage the events. It actually sends the alerts and tracks the alerts. So it's a helpful tool, and it's web-based, which is great for us. Again, we're not always in the office, so you can be remote on a phone, whatever, and you can access it. So we send the alerts out, and then at the bottom, TAPCO has the ability to integrate with your ATMS, and there are enhancements at the bottom. RIDOT hasn't done these yet, but as I say, the integration with changeable message signs, your cameras themselves, your website, etc., Twitter feeds. The option is there. The tech is there to do that. RIDOT hasn't done it yet. Also, there's some high resolution cameras that TAPCO would promote to use at your sites rather than a lower res camera. And they claim so you can have streaming view of when a wrong way driver is coming down the ramp. That can be helpful for the operators. They're trying to see what's going on. Did the person correct or not? So there's some exciting stuff there. Real quick on the BlinkLink software, I have a couple screen grabs I wanted to share with you in case you hadn't seen it. Sorry for the small text here, but on the left is the overview. You see a map, you see a list of your devices. And on the right is, you can see system alerts, who they're sent to, what level of functionality, who you want notified when, et cetera, et cetera. And at the bottom right, you can see the devices in the field for this particular location. So it's a pretty nice software. It's web-based again. This is an example early on that we had when we were one of the first wrong ways we detected, you know, and you can see this vehicle was coming down in daytime, and you can see at the very end on the right, I should say he or she, we don't know who it was, the brake lights activated and they turned around. That's great, right? Later on, more recently, this is one that just happened a few weeks ago. Again, the static images are captured. We're up to 15 images are captured at each wrong way alert instance. And you can see in this case, the person realized they were going the wrong way, hopefully because of those flashing signs that were flashing, and they turned around, and that's great. On the right-hand side, you can see a timeline of in this particular case. So 3/16/21, 9:30:47, the alert was reported. And then at 9:30:48, a second later, the email notifications were sent. The person went through that activation zone, and alerts were sent out to a bunch of people. Mike Gray, our TMC manager, myself, I'm on there, consultants, contractors, et cetera. And then you can see the key one is the top line. Resolution type was changed to wrong way vehicle. When was that done? It was 9:32:23. So roughly a minute and a half after the alert came in. That's kind of a long time, you might argue. But our operators do the very, very best they can. They have to verify what's going on, and they're managing multiple things. You know, there might have been an incident going on elsewhere where they're also charged with managing that. So a hint that automation can maybe help with this, and I'll get at that in a second. This screen is important. We have had those false positives I mentioned, and to my best of my knowledge, I'm not a physicist, but it's the radar technology has been an issue. In the installation on the right, the left, the image, you can see where the pole is. This is one of those locations with the challenging ramps. They're right next to each other. So we kind of felt we had to put in the detector where it was, right next to traffic. And we found the images show this, that when you have a vehicle that has a unique pattern or feature, a regular feature like a flatbed with a unique load, the radar oftentimes or sometimes will pick that up as a wrong way driver. So the operators have to go in, and then you'll see in this case on the right, the operator of the TMC noted this was a false positive. It's all fine, right? Nobody gets hurt. That's great. But it's an issue for things like cry wolf and things like that. You know, you don't want to send a message out to somebody saying there's a wrong way driver and they're not there. That leads to disrespect, I would argue, and people not caring about the systems. So this is also a case real quick about an actual wrong way driver that was legit. There was a crash down on the freeway, and this was a flatbed backing up. So the system did its job, and the operator was able to type in emergency response vehicle here. Real quick, the emails you get, this is what they would look like. The images are attached. You can scroll through those images quickly if you're not working in the TMC and you get these. Also, I don't have time to go through it now, but there's data reporting and exporting options galore in BlinkLink, which is great. If you want to be real analytical and look at things, you can. So real quick on the protocol. Normally for protocols, I'm an engineer, I would list numbers, sequence of how you do things. I didn't put numbers here for a reason. Some of this stuff is going on at the same time, interactively. So it's a real active environment when there's a wrong way driver detected, obviously, an imminent threat. Real quick, the email or the text alerts are sent out and received by the TMC and different police agencies in DOT in Rhode Island. There is an audible alert in BlinkLink. If you have it open on your workstation, it's an audible. It's like a beeping sound. The TMC or police have to verify that wrong way driver before taking action, or I would argue they should. So we look at those BlinkLink photos. We look at the CCTV camera streams. If we have one nearby, our operators will do that. Then the TMC and police communicate and coordinate. As Rick mentioned, he's got co-location in his TMC. We're lucky we have that too. State police are there for only peak travel periods, but that co-location is great because it can help with things like this. And finally, at the bottom, once you verify, the police can maybe dispatch, or if it's appropriate, or the TMC can post messages to the signs. And this is the key. So as of today, Ride.TMC, we haven't yet posted a message to the signs. There's two big reasons for that. One is, I'm told, it's just the time frame, which I mentioned earlier. Things happen so quick, and by the time our operator is able to verify what's going on, if it's worthy of posting a message, right? Enough time has passed that somebody's corrected themselves, or in some cases, based on experience, the person's diverted or down the road or whatever. So we haven't yet done it. The other reason is this slide. This is probably my most interesting slide today. For travel information, which is what this group is all about. To me, there's a real issue with this. Perhaps I'm being pessimistic, but what's the right message to give folks, right way drivers, I should say, when there's a wrong way driver detected? After looking into this further, I believe it's really the simpler the better. It's probably just a wrong way driver is detected. It's information they have, and then it's kind of like hope for the best. You can't tell them that, right? But really, what do you say? Because you don't know where they are. I think many DOTs don't know exactly where the person is. If you don't have a CCTV camera there to verify, you don't know. And even if you do, it's so dynamic. 80 miles per hour versus 80, it had things happen real fast. There's some YouTube videos out there that show graphically, things that have happened, and it's just it's a real issue. The time frame is so quick, but there's no national standards on this. Every one of your own DOTs probably has its own input in how they're doing things. I've listed on the right the message that RIDOT has drafted, but again, we haven't yet posted to a sign. Wrong way drivers, use caution. There's other examples out there, as you can see. At the bottom of the slide, I put an example I found just from Arizona, just randomly chose them. Many of your states I know and the East Coast have such things on your website. If you read through it, it's a lot of good information, but can you put all that on a sign? Obviously not. So anyways, this is an area that I hope, I know academia is looking at it. What type of message is appropriate to give to right way drivers who you want to warn them of what's going on? And again, most of you probably have more experience with this than we do in Rhode Island, so I'm happy to hear any ideas. Real quick, the effectiveness evaluation. So we have had a positive performance, we feel, roughly 5.5 years pre and post. And the graphics on the right show that we had 8 fatalities before at all the sites where we've implemented the TAPCO systems, and then 0 afterwards. There's a little bias there. If you're a safety guy, you know that we chose sites where there was a fatality, pretty much the highest risk. So there's a little bias there, but it's a fact that there's been no fatalities at those sites. I mean, that's encouraging. Remember, towards 0 deaths. I mean, that's what it's all about. And then the crashes themselves also have gone down significantly. Some of those are hard to track. Sometimes you can't tell where the person got on, right, or what happened. But those numbers have gone down. So we really think the flashing signs, just those, it's not a travel information issue, it's just a warning issue, a safety issue, that really does have a positive impact. So if your state hasn't yet used these systems, we would encourage considering it if you have a problem with wrong way driving. Real quick on the maintenance and cost, if you haven't done this before, we did a bulk purchase initially with 24 systems, cost roughly $25,000 each. That included everything, the poles, the equipment, the service for 2 years, warranties, et cetera, cell service. Since then, costs have gone up a little bit, obviously, and if you're going to use the thermal detection with more poles and stuff, the costs go up. So we've seen up to about $100,000 a location. Maintenance is key to us. We have to maintain these systems because our director thankfully says puts a high priority on these systems. We want them to work. We want to save lives, right? So we have a good, I think, robust maintenance program with contractor help to do that. And TAPCO comes out routinely to do preventative and as needed maintenance. We've used mostly HSIP funding as well, safety funding here, in case that's of interest to your agency. So the last slide I have is a promising future. This is the key thing. So I already mentioned, we don't yet automate. When there's an alert that we get, it's still a manual process. Somebody has to get the alert, decide whether it's appropriate to post a message to a sign, for example. If we had Rick's system, we'd be tweeting things out as well, but we're not there yet. But we just don't have that. We don't even have an ATMS that's fully comprehensive. So we're talking about getting one. And when we do, to me, this would be a great way to improve our responsiveness for wrong way drivers, is to integrate that and make that automated. I think that would really help. The second bullet is longer term, I put it, but it doesn't have to be longer term. It's really direct alerts to the road users themselves. And again, what Rick showed, the in-vehicle type warnings or alerts to both parties. So if you're a wrong way driver, you can, why not send an alert to their phone? It's not feasible today with our TAPCO system that we have, but I'm pretty sure the technology is there to do it. But there's bigger issues, societal issues, legal issues. I don't know, whatever you guys want to call it. But that's the wave of the future is CVs, connected vehicle stuff, because you know, we're not there yet, but eventually we'll be there where everything's on board, and TAPCO may not want to hear it, but eventually there'll be no need for roadside signs, right? It's all in the vehicle, it's in the unit. And that's where, thankfully, people like Maryland and many of you guys are promoting that and pushing that. You're studying it, your academia is studying that stuff. That's the way it's got to go if we really want to get serious about crashes. So anyways, it's long-term for RIDOT because we're not there yet. I also put even better is the control of the vehicle, right? The things like OnStar and interlocks. And, you know, again, I'm pretty sure the technology is there today to shut off a vehicle in a certain condition, right? But there's so many legal liability, it's not the right term, issues with that, societal issues. You know, what if you do this, not that, there's more risk. So it's a big issue, but that's, again, the way, if you're a safety advocate, you're probably looking that way. And I give credit to your agencies who are already looking at that. Because again, the wrong way driver, if he's impaired, he or she's impaired, they cause the crash. You know, it's just tragic that anybody is affected by that. You know, and so, but if they're the problem, then why not just solve the problem, right? That's what engineers try to do. I'm excited about that offering. I don't know if it's going to be 5 years or before I'm dead and gone before that we get there, but that is the way I think we should be looking as an industry to help curb this problem. In the interim, safety is number one. I'm sure most of your organizations or all of them. So it should be feasible to make the case if you haven't yet done things the wrong way. It should be pretty, when I say easy, it should be pretty feasible to do it because again, safety is number one. You save one fatal crash, you know, the feds might value it at 3-point-something million, but we all know it's priceless to the family and friends. How much do these systems cost? I gave you some numbers. They're nowhere near that amount. So last slide I have is TAPCO does have some offerings for CV connection type stuff. This probably interests some of you on the line. I have a contact here for Alex Perry. He's their national specialist on this, and I would recommend you contact him if you have technical questions on what they could do, really for anything for you, but regarding the CV stuff for their offerings. So I said a lot. I hope I didn't go over my time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Russ. That was really, really innovative and interesting. And we do have some questions in the Q&A. Eli Scherer says, one, I see alerts are sent to email and SMS. Do they also send to navigation and traffic service providers?
As of right now in Rhode Island, the answer is no. Long term, that's where I'm just one voice. I'd like to get there because it's, as I said, the in-vehicle systems or even pre-trip, right? Whatever it is. Yeah, that's the way to go. My DOT wants to look at the right way to share data out and get the information out to those private parties so they can do their job, which they do well, right? Apps, Waze, things like that. They do a job very well with people using those applications. So today the answer is no in Rhode Island, but we're looking at someday getting there.
Thank you. And there's a follow-up from the same attendee. Are cancel messages sent when the wrong way driver is cleared?
That's a great question, Eli. If that's key. I love what Rick's presentation. Again, I love yours, Rick, because you showed the case where those Twitter feeds, you gave an example where it shows it's been cleared. I think that question RIDOT needs to remember, and we will. It's not as easy as just posting it. Some people want to know when it's cleared, especially for wrong way, right? You're coming down the road with your family. Oh no, we got a wrong way coming at us. It says it's might be miles downstream and an exit that's coming up. And all this is happening on the fly. And then if that person's been apprehended or worst case has crashed, right, you want to know that. This is what I tried to hint at on my slide about the human factors issues. Really is what it is. It's not necessarily easy to post that message. And what do you say? Because this is all about safety too, which it is. Remember, for years and years, I'm an engineer. We learned back in school that driver distraction is key, and text phones, right? They're bad. That's a distraction. So I have to say, being a devil's advocate, it still is a distraction. You know, we can't guarantee that people have this docked in their vehicle and they're not looking at it, you know? So that's a great question. This is a good discussion. I wish we could have this discussion, you know, in person. But the answer is no right now in Rhode Island. I look to what Rick shared in his presentation for a way that you can do it. And I think it's important to consider that.
Great. And finally, we have it's more of a comment. Wrong way driver from Alan Greenberg. Wrong way driver, use caution. May not be the best sign, as it suggests that if you're choosing to drive the wrong way, please be cautious in doing so.
Yeah, Alan, I like that point a lot. And as I mentioned, thankfully, the message we showed is just draft. We haven't used it. I think the Michigan example below the one I showed is the one I like better with wrong way driver reported. A lot will show. Oh, thanks for flipping back there. The wrong way driver reported. I think most agencies probably use something like that. The wrong way driver reported in area. Use extreme caution. I don't know about extreme. What does that mean? You know, but yeah, good point. Wrong way driver, use caution. Again, appreciate that input. And RIDOT should think strongly about how the most appropriate message to post that minimizes our risks. Because I'll say it again. We need to. All our agencies need to. We have that. What's the word? We have that responsibility to post things that are accurate, timely, right, and useful. And in traffic control, if you don't do that, you're asking for trouble. Never mind liabilities and stuff. So good point.
All right. So I'm looking at the clock. We're running a little bit over, so I want to maybe wrap this up. There are two more. There are more comments than questions. I'll read them out. One is from Michael Fitzpatrick saying wrong way driver would be seeing the back of the sign. And then another response from Alan saying, yes, I like wrong way driver reported much better. So it's a great example of how we learn from each other and share information across the region. So I don't see any other questions or raised hands, but I do want to thank Russ. You did a great job. It's cutting edge stuff. And I think with that, I'm going to turn the proceedings over to the other co-chair of this group, Kelly Wells, who will take it from here. And I think that's the last you'll hear from me today. But it's been an excellent presentation or summit so far, and I'm sure it will continue to be so. So thank you, and Kelly, take it away.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes, we.
Okay, wonderful. Let me find myself. There I am. Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, thanks, Mary, for kicking us off today. And we're going to continue on with the second half of our presentations this morning. So our next presentation will be from Paul Cooper of OptaSense. Paul is the Business Development Director for the Transportation Division, and OptaSense is the world's leading provider of distributed fiber optic sensing solutions into various industries. I thought this was interesting. So it works on the pipeline, power and utilities, oil field services, and transportation industries. I always love when people bring things from other industries because we think, oh, this is transportation, but there's so many other places that have great ideas that we can learn from. So I'm looking forward to hearing this. Paul joined OptaSense in 2017 and has over 25 years of experience introducing disruptive technology solutions into the automotive, rail, oil and gas, and aerospace industries. So today, Paul will talk to us about high performance and reduced cost traffic monitoring using fiber optic sensing. So Paul, take it away.
Okay, just checking. Can you see the slides and hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Fine.
I can't see your slide. Can anyone
Thank
see
you.
Paul's slides?
And hello to everybody on the call. And just firstly to say, I am very pleased to have this opportunity to present to you today about our fiber optic traffic monitoring solution and our experiences in delivering a pilot project for the Georgia DOT during 2020. So first of all, just a short introduction to our company, OptaSense. So OptaSense is a British company and we're headquartered near London in the UK. And we are owned by a NASDAQ listed American company called Lunar Innovations, who are headquartered near Roanoke, Virginia. And combined, we are the world's largest fiber optic sensing organization. OptaSense is a technology company, and the technology that we provide enables us to convert standard single mode fiber optic cable into becoming an intelligent sensor, capable of monitoring long asset distances with a minimum of deployed equipment. So to put that into context, each set of our equipment has the potential to monitor up to 50 miles of distributed asset. And that gives this distributed sensing technology a fundamental advantage over common point sensor alternatives. So not surprisingly, you will see from the slide that OptaSense operates in a number of market verticals, all of which are characterized as being dominated with long and linear assets. And in each of these industries, we deliver to our customers domain-specific sensing solutions, which enable them to protect and optimize the performance of their assets. But of course, during this presentation, I will be discussing specifically the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution and the project for the Georgia DOT. So this infographic gives a high-level overview of the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution. So what I'll do is I'll talk through this slide and then go into a little bit more detail on subsequent slides on the technology and the Georgia DOT project specifically. So the OptaSense TMS converts roadside optical fiber into a traffic sensor. And specifically, we are looking to convert a single dark or unused fiber core within an existing roadside fiber optic cable and convert this into being the intelligent traffic sensor. We connect the OptaSense hardware up to the dark fiber. This hardware comes in a 19-inch rack-mounted format. And normally we install the OptaSense hardware away from the roadside, typically in an equipment room or a network hub building, anywhere really where the required power, environmental controls, and access to the fiber is available. Put simply, laser technology within the OptaSense TMS hardware converts the fiber into an array of distributed virtual traffic sensors. And we're able to create a virtual traffic sensor every 165 feet or 50 meters down the monitored section. Each one of these distributed traffic sensors is able to detect the passing traffic by reacting to a combination of the acoustic noise and the vibration associated with passing vehicles. And then the software algorithms, which we have developed on top of the laser technology, enables us to convert this detection from a large sample of the vehicles traveling on the highway into a number of key traffic flow indicators. So the main output of the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution, and what we're really good at doing, is delivering an average speed. That's an aggregated speed measurement aggregated across the lanes of traffic in each direction, but delivered with a spatial resolution of 165 feet and an update rate of once every second. And because we monitor this average speed so finely, we're then able to accurately and dynamically pinpoint incidents and areas of queue and congestion, again, to within an accuracy of 165 feet. We're also able to use this aggregated average speed measurement to provide journey time estimates between configured locations on the monitored route. Most typically, this would be between junctions. The 4 applications which you see on the infographic, these are all delivered with a fiber which is running parallel to the road, but it also, and additionally, where fiber is running underneath or perpendicular to the flow of traffic, at these points, we're also able to count traffic and provide flow rate indications. So this next slide explains the principles of the technology and indeed how we use a technique called distributed fiber optic sensing in order to convert existing roadside fiber optic cable into a distributed traffic sensor. So in the road application, we need a section of road. What we need is fiber optic cable, which is running parallel to the road. And as said previously, we're looking to access a single dark or unused fiber core within a roadside fiber optic cable. We connect up to the dark fiber, the main item of proprietary hardware delivered by OptaSense, which is called the Interrogator Unit. The Interrogator Unit, one of the fundamental components of the Interrogator Unit is a high integrity laser. And what the Interrogator Unit does is it will send a series of laser light pulses down the dark fiber, the fiber optic core. Each Interrogator Unit having a range of up to 25 miles. Now for each and every laser light pulse which is sent, a proportion of the light gets reflected or backscattered back to the Interrogator Unit. So the Interrogator Unit not only sends the laser light pulse, but what it is also able to do is look for and understand the properties of the reflected light signal at 165 feet intervals down that monitored road section. And the trick is that when something happens on the asset, so in this case, it will be vehicles traveling down the road, combination of the noise and the vibration from each of the vehicles traveling along the road causes a microscopic disturbance or strain to the fiber optic cable. And that in turn changes the properties of the reflected or backscattered light signal. So the Interrogator Unit can see these changes. And what we've developed on top of the Interrogator Unit is a processing algorithms which enabled us to convert that detection and the change in the reflected light signal into the key traffic flow indicators, which you can see appearing on the slide. And as said previously, the top 4 of these are all delivered with the fiber optic cable or core running parallel to the road. And at the points where the fiber optic core runs underneath the road or perpendicular to the direction of traffic, at those points we're also able to provide traffic count and flow rate indications. So now let's talk in more detail about the evaluation project that was delivered to the Georgia DOT during the first half of 2020, right about the time when the pandemic first hit in Europe and the United States, which obviously offered its own challenges. So this project was executed on a 15-mile section of the I-20 highway in Atlanta, which is a key strategic route for the Georgia DOT, and involved the installation, commissioning, and operational running of a standard OptaSense traffic monitoring solution, delivering the key traffic flow indicators described previously. Georgia DOT's objectives during this project was firstly to assess the performance of the fiber optic sensing technology on its own state roads, but also to use the evaluation project in order to evaluate the potential benefits of adopting this technology in favor of existing or alternative roadside sensor technologies. Second point to note is that for this project, as you can see from the picture here, the I-20 highway in Atlanta is quite a wide highway. So it's 5 lanes of traffic in each direction, potentially up to 6 lanes in some areas. And this project was actually delivered delivered with a single roadside optical fiber cable, which was located in the shoulder of one of the directions of traffic. And from this single fiber within this roadside optical fiber cable, we were able to monitor both 5 lanes of traffic in one direction and 5 lanes of traffic in the other direction. So the sensing range away from the fiber was particularly impressive. The evaluation project was approximately 6 months in duration and actually followed a proven project plan or methodology, which OptaSense has developed to enable new customers to test the performance of the solution on their roads before making a significant investment or purchase of the equipment. So the key phases of the project can be seen on the outline project plan shown. But I think one of the main points is that within this 6 months, OptaSense is able to install and commission the solution within 1 to 2 months on that nominated road section, which can be 25 miles or even up to 50 miles. And this only requires a 1 week long site visit. There's absolutely no need for any road closures or new equipment. And the optimization period you see on the project plan, that actually takes place remotely from the UK without any real effort required by the Georgia DOT during that period. And then once the system is optimized and running to satisfactory or high performance, then we're able to hand the solution over to the customer, and they can then evaluate the performance of the solution for the remaining period. And for the Georgia DOT project, this was approximately 4 months. This slide shows the installation layout for the I-20 project. And, the real takeaway from this is how simple it is. So the OptaSense equipment was installed in a existing hub building near to Panthersville, and a second device, a passive termination unit, which is about the size of a cigarette, was connected to the other end of the same fiber at a second hub building near to Capitol Gateway. The equipment shown in the picture, which is actually a library picture, shows a dual OptaSense traffic monitoring solution. So this contains 2 OptaSense Interrogator units, and this would be capable of monitoring up to 50 miles of roadway. However, for the Georgia DOT project, we installed a single OptaSense traffic monitoring solution with a range of up to 25 miles. And as evidenced by this picture taken by the on-site engineers, you can see that in this case, we're very much able to work around the available space in the GDOT building at Panthersville in order to deploy and commission the solution. This picture also gives a first indication of the data that was collected from the monitor road, which I will discuss next. So very early on during the evaluation project, the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution is able to deliver real-time traffic data from the monitored road, real-time acoustic data, and real-time traffic information, which is generated from that acoustic data. So this chart shows the raw acoustic data, which is generated, and I'll explain what we're seeing. So on the x-axis, we have distance. So this is distance along the monitored road section. And this is actually, in the OptaSense terminology, measured in channels, which would be the 165 feet road segments I've mentioned previously. And then on the x-axis, we have time. So this is a rolling recorder of acoustic data. And what we can see on this waterfall chart are the acoustic signals which are collected from the monitored road section. The blue areas represent quiet sections. The yellow, orange, and red sections represent areas of increasing noise intensity. And these are mostly generated by individual vehicles traveling along the road. So at first sight, the captured data looks to be rather random and hard to interpret. But if we start to look closely, even with the human eyeball, what we can see is we can see diagonal lines which are traveling across the chart. Some are going in one direction and others are going in another direction. And so this enables us to sort traffic traveling on the lanes in each direction from one another. So that's how we are able to monitor traffic going in two directions on the same highway. If we zoom in a little closer, we can then start to see the acoustic traces, which are captured from individual vehicles. And if we look again at that in more detail, we're able to note that the angle of the acoustic traces is related to the speed. So on the left-hand diagram, you can see two vehicles with two angular acoustic traces traveling at different speeds on the highway. And on the right-hand side, you can see the trace of a single vehicle joining the highway at a ramp and then accelerating up to road speed over a period of time. And it is this acoustic data that the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution collects in real time, continually from the entire monitored road, and then converts this into the key traffic flow indicators for our customers. So these key traffic flow indicators are then presented to our customers as shown on the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution graphical user interface as shown. In this case, the average speed for each direction of traffic is displayed as a color-coded bar. So green is showing good road speed. And then in areas where you see the colors changing in the 165 feet segments through yellow and red, these are indicating areas where the traffic is starting to slow, becoming congested, or where queues are starting to develop. And you can see underneath it on the graphic, these C1 and Q markers. These are indicators where alerts or notifications have been sent to indicate where these areas of queuing and congestion are occurring. If I now animate the slide, you'll be able to see the OptaSense graphical user interface in operation. Although I will point out that this is speeded up slightly, so things are happening faster than they would do normally. Please do note the granularity of the average speed information from the monitored road, obviously to a fidelity which is not practical with roadside point sensors or currently available with probe data. And also please note this traffic count indication or this vehicle per hour flow rate indication, which was delivered on the GDOT project at a particular on-ramp where the monitored on the monitored route where the available fiber crossed the highway. And again, just to point out that all of this traffic information on a 15-mile road section was all achieved by leveraging a spare dark fiber within an existing roadside optical fiber cable running down the shoulder on one side of the highway. I think I'd just ask you also to note at this point that this is the traffic flow information as shown on the OptaSense user interface. We supply this with our solution and it's available for use by our customers. However, many of our customers do look to integrate the underlying data from the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution with other sources and display them onto their own user interfaces. And this is easily achievable with a standard API. Okay, so before I sum up, just like to make reference to some of the validation activities that have taken place to prove the accuracy of the output of the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution. This is typically done by comparing the output of the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution to more mature point sensor technologies, such as loops, microwave or radar sensors, and indeed by comparing to actual ground truth available from CCTV cameras. And even though fiber optic sensing technology is a relatively new and emerging technology for traffic monitoring in North America, I'd just like to make you aware that several independent assessments have taken place in Europe with some of the leading and most innovative road operators on that continent. So in Sweden, comparison was made between the OptaSense solution and their existing microwave sensors. And you can see from these charts here that there is a high degree of correlation between the two technologies. In the UK, a performance assessment was made by an independent consultant on behalf of Highways England on an instrumented tunnel testbed. And in this case, each and every time the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution alerted for queue and congestion, a comparison was made with both CCTV ground truth and other sensor sources. And you can see from the results here that the OptaSense solution scored exceptionally well with 100% accuracy and a detection time of 3 seconds, which far exceeded the minimum UK requirements. In the Netherlands, an independent comparison was made against inductive loops. And again, even when you zoom in on the charts, you can see a high degree of correlation between inductive loops and the OptaSense solution. And then just finally, for the Georgia DOT, obviously during the commissioning of the pilot or the evaluation project solution, similar comparisons were made to existing sensor sources. But also what we were able to do, that once we were in an operational running mode, we were able to remotely compare our performance against incidents that were reported on the monitored section on the GDOT or the I-20 Twitter feed. And again, you can see that there was a high degree of correlation between what the Twitter was reporting, which I guess is ground truth, and what the OptaSense solution was reporting. So, in conclusion, I hope this has been an interesting review of both the OptaSense fiber optic sensing technology, the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution, and the Georgia DOT evaluation project specifically. For all parties, I believe the project was a success. The project was completed on schedule, and the solution remains in service today. The outcome from the project has been documented in several places, and this includes an article by Andrew Heath from the Georgia DOT in the online Roads and Bridges magazine, which I hope you will look up. I'd also like to point out that following the evaluation project, a subsequent independent assessment of the potential business benefits of the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution compared to alternative point sensor technologies used by Georgia DOT, which includes loops and microwave detectors, indicated that the life cycle costs of the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution could be an order of magnitude lower than alternative point sensor technology, and very comparable to the raw cost of commercially available probe data sources. So with that, I just say that OptaSense continues to work with a number of other DOTs in North America on similar evaluation projects. And if anyone listening is interested in converting their roadside fiber optic cable into a traffic sensor, we would be delighted to discuss that further with you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. That was really interesting. And we do have 2 questions in the chat for you. So the first one is from Russell Allen, and he asks, has there been any further internal discussion to develop a multi-port box, if, for example, monitoring a major interchange where fiber is available in all 4 directions?
Okay, that's a good question, and probably I need a follow-up conversation with Russell to really understand what he's driving at there. But ultimately, I think the way to answer that question is that when we talk about the OptaSense traffic monitoring solution and fiber optic sensing, we're not seeing that as being an alternative or a replacement for every other sensing technology which exists. We're seeing it as being entirely complementary. So generally, what the fiber optic sensing technology is good at doing is providing high quality traffic information for the relatively long and straight sections of highway which already have fiber optic cable roadside. And when you come to monitoring or looking at analyzing more complicated road intersections or junctions, very often fiber optic sensing can add something to that, but very often also we require to be integrated with more specialist point sensor solutions. So I'm not sure I'm answering the question, but I think that would very much depend on the specifics. But I would say on a complicated intersection, the most probable answer would be an integration of the OptaSense solution with point sensor solutions at that particular place.
Okay, very good. Russell, if you want to ask a follow-up question in the chat, in the Q&A, feel free to do so. But we'll go on to Ralph Volpe's question, which is, can OptaSense detect vehicle classifications?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm going to try and give you a good answer. So at the moment, as you hopefully picked up from the presentation, we are able to count vehicles at fiber optic road crossings. And that counting is slightly aggregated because it aggregates across the lanes on the highway. Fiber optic sensing as a technology is something which has been commercially available for a little more than a decade, about the time that OptaSense has been in business. So frankly, it's newer than the internet, right? And vehicle classification and lane by lane counting is a extension of the technology, which we are currently piloting with others at the moment, and we hope to have commercially available in the very near future.
Okay. Very good. All right, there's one last one from Steve Dameron. He asked if the OptaSense has to be in a building or could it be housed in an ATC style cabinet?
Okay, so I'm English, right? You can tell from my accent, so I'm not familiar with the ATC acronym. Generally, we see an advantage of the OptaSense solution is that you're able to put the hardware away from the roadside in an existing equipment room or network hub building. And we think there's many advantages to that. We do have a project which is actually in North Dakota in the US, where they actually created a roadside cabinet which had the necessary environmental controls and power controls. And they did actually place their system roadside. So the answer is we can do either. And I guess the decision on what is the best in a particular application would be down to the specifics and something that we could discuss in detail.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Okay, well, y'all can keep on going in the Q&A and Paul can chime in that way. But thank you, Paul, for your presentation. Very interesting. And now we'll switch gears a little bit to John Parker from the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. So let me tell you a little bit about John. John is the Senior Traffic Operations Project Manager with the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. He is responsible for IT and GIS projects, as well as operational and safety studies. Before joining the Turnpike Commission, he worked at PennDOT for 17 years, where he managed the statewide bridge program and IT projects for the program center. He oversaw developing the 12-year TYP, which maybe is like a TIP, perhaps, John, for all federal monies for the Commonwealth. And now John serves as a member of the Innovation Council for the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So we look forward to hearing from John. What else is up Pennsylvania Turnpike's crowdsourcing sleeve? So take it away, John.
I am going to share my screen.
I will let you know when I can see it.
Okay.
Your audio is good.
Okay.
And I can see your screen, so take it away.
All right. Unfortunately, I got to go after the sexy English accent guy, but that's okay. My name is John Parker. I'm from the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. Just want to give you a quick presentation, and also thank Denise for actually letting us present what's going on at the PA Turnpike. So in my presentation, I'm just going to go over a little bit about data sharing, some crowdsourcing that we're doing, the Waze Alert, which is really not new to us. We've had Waze Alert for about a year and a half now, but pretty interesting technology, and definitely helps with our, slow down, move over law, and helps our keep our maintenance guys safe. So, and then I'll just go over a little bit of our metrics and dashboards we use with crowdsourcing and how it helps our TOC. So the first thing I want to try and go over is just the data sharing that we're doing with a lot of third parties. Again, we are a connected partner with Waze. In December of 2020, we got an agreement with Google Maps to share our accident data, so that's going pretty well. But the next, I guess, piece, and it was challenged to us, is to try and get into commercial vehicles, try and get into the ELDs. We reached out to Trimble and Drivewise and Freightways and a lot of the guys that are out there in the commercial and ELD environment, and we started getting data sharing agreements with them. I guess the next step to the whole entire thing is to get more into the commercial vehicle, and what we're trying to do there is Mapbox is a pretty big mapping navigation for some of the commercial vehicles. And also Apple Maps. We're still trying to work with them to get into the Apple Maps navigation environment. So, we're just trying to reach out to a lot of these commercial vehicle mapping and navigation companies. And what I want to try and at least say here is, with those other DOTs, is to start contacting these guys, because they, the more people that contact and bother them, the more they're going to integrate a lot of the real-time information they're getting from us in their applications and get it to commercial vehicles, get into Google Maps, just really push and start sharing the real-time information instead of them getting it from a third or fourth or fifth source. So we are a connected partner. We share our accidents and work zone data with Waze. We have a connected partnership where we just put an API out for them to collect the data that we're getting. We also get data from Waze for the Turnpike. We can also, because we have a couple different map editors in our TOC, we can close a road in Waze. We have a pretty good relationship with a lot of the level 5 map editors. Not many people know you can have a regional relationship with those guys that they can push stuff out in Waze and do a lot of different stuff in the Waze map. A couple of different things that I think we do in the map editors, we set speed limits, to 55 or around work zones in Waze. It's a pretty nice feature Waze gives us. We did experiment with putting some safety messaging out last year in Waze for either lane reduction or sharp curve. That we got a lot of likes doing it, but I think Waze kind of took that away from us. But I will tell you, with working with Denise and all the other DOTs, in the coalition, those conversations we're having with Waze now are going to push those safety messages out there. So I think that's huge for this whole coalition to talk and talking with Waze. And then at some point in time, we're going to actually try and integrate and try to dispatch via Waze in our TOC. So we're looking to push that out probably this summer, because we do realize that with the Waze Alerts, believe it or not, people don't call our star 11 or 911. They will put it on their phone first. So, or report it in Waze or report it in Google before they actually make a phone call. And what Rick said with the 511 stuff and calling into 511, I would tend to agree with him. The trend is going down for people actually calling 511 and getting the message out in different ways. I would, definitely we're going towards that and we're trending towards that. So I just thought that was interesting what Rick said. So again, with the Waze inclusion stuff, we're going to try and dispatch via Waze. The other interesting thing we're doing with Waze, and we learned this from Rhode Island DOT and Russ's cohorts, they actually get a travel time file from Waze, and we are experimenting how we can get the actual speeds out of that travel time, and it looks pretty promising. Again, a lot of Waze stuff is passenger vehicles. We're getting better speeds from the passenger vehicles. Again, we're just using a resource that Waze is giving us. hopefully they keep giving us, and maybe a different way of looking at speeds and what passenger vehicle speeds are. So the other thing we did with Waze, I think was important, was in our plazas that, you know, that we were collecting cash, but now we are completely not collecting cash anymore, and people are flying through the plazas. But we actually put a speed reduction at the plazas to just warn people that they are basically speeding through the plaza, but they actually get a ding in Waze if they go over the speed limit, which I think is 15 miles an hour now in our plazas. So again, there's different ways of using Waze, I think is really important. The Haas alert, which the Haas alert came, we started looking at Haas in 2019. We met them at a conference, me and Todd Lease. They were in the EMS fire and towing kind of environment of putting digital alerts out. So some of the fire and EMS guys knew exactly where they were going, and putting that information out to the public. So kind of flip that onto our responder vehicles, our safety responder vehicles, and our maintenance guys that actually respond along the roadside to incidents. So basically it's a digital alert. It goes out in Waze. It tells drivers to slow down and move over, that there's an emergency vehicle in it. So before you actually hit it, about a half mile before you hit it, you can see the screen here that this will actually throws it out to Waze and warns people there is emergency vehicle ahead and to slow down and move over. That's the message that people are getting now. The initial purchase that we did 99 devices. They were all connected to the light bar, and they all give the half-mile alert. It's activated by the light bar as soon as they turn the light bar on. And in about 30 seconds, you actually see in Waze a half mile behind the actual vehicle. And the second wave, what we did was kind of look at it a little differently. We didn't want to assign it to a vehicle. We actually asked Haas to do like a plug and play unit, where you just plug it in a cigarette lighter, and that device can go in any vehicle at all. The reason why we did that was, and I think it's probably really important, because our mobile work zones, we were getting a lot of hits on our attenuators, and a lot of people hitting a lot of our attenuators on the mobile work zones. We want to be able to move those into our. We have about 400 different snow plows and vehicles. So we wanted to, and they go out on different patterns, and some are, in the shop and not in the shop. But so we wanted to take those devices and just have a plug and play unit. Now we have 2 plug and play units per maintenance shed. So they can go into any vehicle, and it is helping with our, people being aware of the mobile work zone. So in the year of 2020, we sent out 1.8 million driver alerts in the first year. I think that's huge. People are noticing the difference. Our maintenance guys are noticing the difference. So just for a quick cost and what we're doing and what's out there right now, right there's the actual device in itself. Again, we have, well, it's not 97, it's actually 99 vehicles now that are hardwired to 44 portable units. It's about $170 a unit. It's $1.95 a day. So spending $1.95 a day to keep our guys safe, I think is huge. And again, 1.8 million Waze driver alerts in the first year was pretty big to us. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to go back and see how effective it was. In 2018, we had 30 different accidents with our maintenance guys and safety guys. They actually were, the vehicle was either hit or the guys were actually hit. So in 2019, it was reduced down to about 19 accidents. We had one guy hit 3 times in about 3 months in Somerset. So we knew this was a critical issue for us. And in 2020, we had 0 accidents. And what I mean by 0 accidents, nobody was actually hit. We did have some TMAs hit, but we figured out what we did was those TMAs did not at the time either have the Haas alert in them or have it plugged into the actual cigarette lighters. So, we're just thinking if this is out there and they have it, now maintenance has made it mandatory for these guys to go out and take the plug and play units with them. So we're hoping this works. We're hoping it's, in 2021, we have 0 accidents again, and we have 0 TMA hits. You are going to have those people that just do not pay attention at all to the phone. I mean, they're driving and they're paying attention to the phone and they're looking down and just run into people. There's no way we're going to be able to avoid that. But again, with Waze, you're about 23% of the navigation market. If we get 2 or 3 people out of 10 cars slow down and moving over, the driver trend is somebody slowing down to move over, the guys behind them slow down to move over, and we're just trying to get that message out. We did try something with our winter this year. They did in about 3 of our different sheds put the Haas alerts into the snowplows and snowplow trains. We have a report coming out from Haas to see how well and effective that worked. So I think that was pretty interesting. So that's basically a Haas alert. But I just want to go over, I guess, the different apps that traffic engineering operations and our geoanalytic program has put together. And we have a lot of different streams and different stuff coming in, but I want to see if I can get out of this. And can you guys see my screen now? Is there a Waze dashboard up?
No, we're-
Not yet.
Hold on. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So just to go over a couple of our dashboards and a couple of some of our GIS applications. This is the Waze dashboard that's monitored in the TOC. It gives looks at Waze, and every, I think, 2 minutes, it actually brings all the Waze alerts in. It shows the Waze alerts throughout the whole entire turnpike. It actually goes within 2 miles, I think, of every interchange. So you'll see road closures there. They're not our road closures. They're PennDOT road closures that are around the turnpike. We just need to be aware of them. But there is all the weather hazards, stop car, accidents, you name it, it's on here on Waze. So just in the turnpike itself, we have 108 Waze alerts. It tells us what type of Waze alerts there are. You could scroll down and click on any of these alerts. Our cameras are on here, so if you wanted to see the camera around the particular Waze alert, you can. There is an accident that you can click on and click to, and it'll actually zoom in on it. So I think that's pretty interesting. Well, the camera's not available, but I think that's really interesting, getting to that Waze alert and getting it to it quick and seeing what's going on with it, I think is a pretty interesting thing in order to do that with Waze. So our TOC, Todd Smith, developed this application for our duty officers and the TOC to use. So again, it updates every 2 minutes. You can actually go back and look at historical data and historical Waze data if you want to. Kind of pretty interesting thing. If you could change the map background, you could do that. But there's just like different things in here and what the Waze report is and how many Waze reports we're getting and the different types of Waze reports we've gotten. So that's just the Waze stuff that's coming in and the crowdsourcing we're using in order to help us monitor our roadway. The early warning detection tool, and hopefully people can see this. This is alerts, does a couple different things with crowdsourcing. It splits our 552 miles of roadway into half-mile sections, as you can see right here. And it gives us watch points based on all of the filters that you see over here. So I can filter by any district, any type of roadway, whether it be one of our extensions. I can filter by Waze type or subtype. I just go through the conditions here, or I can set the speed threshold to like -5, -10, whatever I want to set the speed threshold to. And there is weather in here too. And I also can do the Waze confidence, reliability, and ratings and set those to a certain thing. And this will change this table, this active watch point table. And the interesting thing about the watch point table is we're getting Interact speeds in every minute or two. We're getting Waze stuff in every minute or two. We're getting the AccuWeather information in every hour or every 15 minutes that comes in, and it changes and it actually adapts to that half-mile section of roadway. So it's just a really interesting thing. You can see in District 1 where the slowdown is. We can link out to our GIS. It is snowing out there according to AccuWeather. The visibility and wind speeds are there. If I wanted to go to the Waze Live Map, I can easily go to the Waze Live Map. I can sort and filter. I just picked this particular section. I can sort and filter the particular section. And again, these active watch points, every 2 minutes, this application goes out to Waze, goes out to Interrex, goes out to weather. And if something changes, it will change on these active watch points. Just an interesting tool, I think, we can use just to monitor our roadway. These are the speeds in the last hour. Again, these are the speeds reflective to the table up here. The Waze alerts come in. If there is a jam, if there is an accident, as you can see, that accident's right here. If I wanted to go to the Waze Live Map, I can click on here. It goes right out to the Waze Live Map. And then the CADS information that we have, and all of the CADS information, if I click on here, it goes out and hyperlinks to our CADS and gets you more information on any of these events that are going on the Turnpike. So again, half-mile active watch points. It brings everything in every 2 minutes. You can sort and filter if you just wanted to do our District 1 or District 2, you can just sort and filter and watch that. And our TOC is kind of divided up by district. So they can come in here and sort and filter however they want and really watch their area. And as you can see, it's actually refreshed there. Just refreshed about a minute ago. So pretty interesting kind of way of looking and bringing all of the crowdsourcing data in. The incident timeline, we do have a TIM timeline here. This is what our TIM timeline looks like and what the incident duration looks like. This is just for 2021, and it shows just a way of looking at all of our incidents. And as you can see on the left-hand side, all of our filters. I can go by any year. We go back to 2010. I can go by any incident type, accident, crash, whether it's blocking, whether it wasn't blocking, weather condition. I can go whether a commercial vehicle was involved or not. I can actually look at the responders. So this is basically our CADS kind of in a click dashboard that we can kind of just take a look at real quick and see where we're at with incident duration for any incident along the Turnpike. And as you can see, we had 7,000 incidents just this year. And we're looking pretty good on roadway clearance and incident clearance. The other interesting thing we get from this is how often a Waze alert, and that Waze alert is probably within, I think they say it's within, I think 15 minutes and a half mile of a Waze alert happening with that accident. So last year was about, we were getting Waze incidents about 3 minutes before we would actually get to start with one call. This year's a little different because the traffic's down. It's about a minute, but just a really neat kind of TIM timeline viewer that we review a lot in our quarterly incident management meeting. The other thing is, and I'll go back to Rick here, monitoring Twitter and knowing what's going on with Twitter is kind of important to see what's going on out there and who's reporting what and what Twitter's doing. So we got with a company called Data Capable, and they actually monitor Twitter for us and set up this platform. And it goes through and it just looks at Twitter and anybody on Twitter and looks at keywords in Twitter and sees if anybody's saying anything about the Turnpike or putting up anything about the Turnpike, or there is a crash or a lane closed or whatever it is. It's just monitoring Twitter throughout to see what is going on. This is a pretty good thing for us to monitor Twitter, how we monitor Twitter. You can actually click on it and go into Twitter if you want. You can actually respond to the people that have tweeted, which I think is interesting because that's a one-on-one kind of messaging I don't think, if we had a lot more people and a lot more people to respond to these things, I think it would be a great way for us to actually, use crowdsourcing in order to help us with customer service and help us with getting all the incident and crashes out. So the other interesting thing I really want to point out is something we did about a year ago, and it's a video call system. We can't put cameras out on every mile of the roadway. Florida got almost cameras out on every mile of roadway, but we saw something in New Jersey that some of the police agencies were doing and some of the EMS counties were doing. It was called 911i. So we kind of challenged data capable to do this, but it's a video call out to anybody's cell phone. So if I clicked on this right here, I can initiate and select anybody's phone, or I can actually pick, and these are all of our maintenance guys and first responders, any of their cell phones, or I can just dial in a cell phone. It doesn't really matter. And what this does is it will send a text message to that cell phone, and it'll say, this is the PA Department of Transportation. This is the PA Turnpike Commission. We understand there's an incident. Can we use your phone as a camera to help with, first response? So they get that message, they hit allow for the sound, for the camera, and it actually will beam back their cell phone camera back to the TOC. The other interesting part about this is, so the people that need to respond, or the people, or management people, the guy that's on call, it might be Mike Pack, it might be Brian Toski, it might be different people that are on call, want to see what's going on at the scene. They actually get a text message on their phone saying that there's a live incident, and they can actually view what's happening on that cell phone's camera. So it's a brand new kind of thing. It's a data capable video calls, but it's called. It kind of mimics off of the 911i stuff, but it gives us that capability of getting a camera on scene and knowing what's happening, and not having to spend $50,000 to $100,000 getting a camera either on a vehicle or putting a camera pull up and putting a camera up. So we're using the people on site. And it might be a maintenance guy. It might be somebody that's just a passerby. It might be whoever it may be. That person calls in, we have their cell phone number. We're just putting it out to them in a text message, and it's just an easy way for us to see what's going on at the scene. So the other last thing I want to try and go over is the Haas safety alert. This is the cloud thing for the Haas alert. As you can see, it goes, and you can see all of our Haas alerts and all the vehicles out. Everything that is in orange is either responding or on scene. They'll tell you when they're on scene and what vehicle it is. Everything that's green is online. They're not responding, but we're getting a signal back from those particular vehicles. Maintenance guys do a pretty good job of just maintaining and seeing this. We can tell if somebody's on scene. We can tell, if they're on scene and the lights are on, that Waze alert's going out. And if I flip over to Waze Live, you will see, hey, there's an emergency vehicle there, and the message is going out. So it's kind of a neat way of doing this. It's kind of a neat to slow down, move over. We just had a big, huge rally last Saturday on it. I think there was about 230 different people there, about 130 different apparatus, just to promote slow down and move over. And Haas was there. That was a great partner for us, and I push them as much as I possibly can, because I think it's a great thing to do. We are pushing Google to put the Haas alert out. We don't know where that's going to go. We had Haas put together about over 52 letters to Google. And Denise is going to help us out in the coalition to try and get Google to push these safety messages out. I think that's huge. I think that might be the next step after we deal with Waze. So that's just the Haas alert in itself. It's kind of a neat kind of way of looking at things. I'm going to share back to my screen here. Hopefully people can see it. Joanna, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So, so that's all of the different stuff. And I want to go over this and how everything was developed. The Waze Dashboard was developed in-house. It's an ASRE product, and it monitors real time. The early warning detection is in the Click application. And again, it monitors half-mile sections of speed, weather, and the Waze alerts updated every 2 minutes. Our incident dashboard developed in-house with a Click dashboard, and it monitors our Rtm Timeline. Data Capable was developed by Data Capable. It's a company out in San Diego. It's a web application. Again, monitors Twitter, but also gives you that live video call to monitor on-sign incidents. And then Haas, developed by Haas. It was a web alert, and in its web application, it shows the vehicles out in the field and gives those alerts out to Waze. So this is not just all the things we do. We have a whole other list of dashboards and applications, and I can go over them as quick as I possibly can. But we have a Rtm version dashboard. It's a GIS dashboard. We have all of our traffic impediments, which is everything from crashes to car stop to disabled vehicles, all on the barcode wall. It's pretty interesting. We have a work zone dashboard developed by Tom Mashoni and his group in traffic engineering. I think that's really cool to see where the dashboards are, how we're monitoring the work zones, and what's going on in our work zones. The deer encounter thing is near and dear to my heart. That's one of the first things I did at the Turnpike. It's a live look at how many deer we actually hit, and believe it or not, we hit a lot of deer, especially in October, November, and December. It's definitely interesting. So the active incident window is just basically if any incident is blocking a road or a lane, it actually gets thrown up on our barcode wall, or TOC barcode wall, and it tells you and gives you photos of the actual incident itself. Incident timeline I went over. We have the CADS reporting. We have TOB mobility dashboard, executive dashboard, because executives want to see different things. ASP dashboard, which is our towers. We actually monitor our towers. They are contracted services to us. So we monitor them. We give them a report card to see how well they're doing. We have a pretty cool weather dashboard we use for activations. And we have our sheds, our maintenance sheds have their own dashboards with their own traffic incidents, with their own cameras, with their own radar, with everything they want just in the maintenance shed itself. And again, we have a work zone crash dashboard and a live speed dashboard. So there's a lot of different dashboards we have. If you guys want to see them all, we have no problem. I have no problem sitting and going over each one of them. It's part of my job, and it's just really interesting how we're using all of this data, especially crowdsourcing data or data that we're getting from other sources, or data we're even feeding out to other sources in help, how we respond, how we're doing with response, and just monitoring the roadway in a completely different way. Okay, that's it. I'll take questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Denise. This is 2 pictures. This is my daughter, my 17-year-old daughter on the left. That's up in Watkins Glen. That's like a secret swimming hole. I don't think I was supposed to be there, but we went anyway. But and the other picture is Highview State Park. It's up in probably the central part of PA. It's a pretty cool shot from a pretty high mountain. So
very cool. Excellent, John. Thank you. We could probably have you just talk all day, because that's a lot of cool stuff. And maybe it's just me, because I guess I do what you do. And so everything you said, I would have listened to you talk about for another hour. So wonderful. Thank you so much. I will tell you there's a couple comments in the Q&A. So if you wouldn't mind answering those in the Q&A themselves, and we will let Amy go ahead and get started just in the interest of time. But thank you so much, John.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Let me introduce Amy DiRusso. She graduated from the University of South Alabama with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. She began her career with a consulting firm in geotechnical engineering. Then she came to the Florida DOT 6 years ago in the Traffic Operations Department. She is now the ITS TSMO program engineer, and she says she's learned a lot in ITS and ATMS and enjoys the technology and traffic management. She's also been involved in District 3's emergency operations team, coordinating and overseeing in-house and contractor activities in response to emergency events. And I will tell you, a lot of you know I've done hurricane stuff. The statistics she's going to give you on this hurricane, like, my mouth was open and I was speechless. So just listen up for some of these attributes of this hurricane she's going to talk about. So take it away, Amy. I think you're muted, so go ahead and unmute.
Oh, sorry about that.
There you go. Very good.
All right. Good morning. Again, my name is Amy DiRusso. I'm the TSM&O program engineer for the Florida Department of Transportation in District 3. I'll be showing you about a situational awareness dashboard that we developed to allow users with real-time traffic signal status, which was created after one of the worst hurricanes that came through our district back in 2018. Next slide. But I want to begin with what we had created is in line with the FDOT mission and vision of the situational awareness development of the dashboard. And it provided an opportunity to innovate an application to support the vital few goals of Florida Department of Transportation: improve safety, enhance mobility, and inspire innovation. Next slide. First, this is where it all began. First, I'd like to show you where we're located in District 3. I think the yellow boxes may be a little bit shifted upwards, but you kind of get the idea. We're in the panhandle of Florida. And each year we prepare for hurricane season. It's from June 1st to November 30th. And since I've been with DOT, we've experienced many emergencies. We actually have had some ice events. We've had snow. We've had, believe it or not, but our panhandle, we have gotten some ice events where things been shut down. And every emergency, just as you all know, is different. We've encountered, small tropical storms. But what really hit home was the Hurricane Michael that hit District 3 in 2018. So our department, meaning me, traffic engineering department, as part of FDOT, we execute emergency contracts such as temporary signal repairs, permanent traffic signal repairs, generator deployment for those traffic signals that are without power, and of course, the associated CEI consultant that helps us manage these contracts. So if you look at the figure on the left, those are the hurricanes back in 2018 that were in our area. And if you look, the hurricane, it's hard to see, it's the Michael, and it comes directly through our district, right in the center. And it hit as a Category 5, and it stayed as a Category 5 all the way up through the top of the state line. So we had hurricane winds of up to 157 miles all the way through the Panhandle, which was just amazing. So our district had a direct hit. It affected over 15 counties. That, like I said, we had wind gusts over 157 miles. The recovery of the transportation system was very challenging, but FDOT met the challenge and pursued opportunities to improve for the next time. And that's why we're here today. In the figure on the left, it made, like I said, sorry, it made landfall directly in the center. So looking back, the hurricane on the right, in the figure on the right, it shows where Hurricane Sally made landfall. And if you follow the line that kind of goes up and to the left, it hits our district right on the county line between Florida and Alabama. Now, even though it was a Category 2, we still had major damage throughout our transportation system. Again, the damages from the 2018 hurricane provided learning opportunities that were implemented ahead of time of this storm, and we were able to use the recovery during the Hurricane Sally. Technology was used to the fullest extent to create the situational awareness and for recording purposes for damage assessments for FEMA. I don't know if all the states in here are familiar with the federal requirements and all the things that you need to do to prepare to get reimbursement. And this application assisted us just regarding traffic signals to report those, create those reports for us. So it was, this was not just a situational awareness, it was a twofold, and actually more than twofold, but just several. it killed, what would you say, the you killed 2 birds with 1 stone or whatever. So it was a full gamut of opportunities to figure out what we could do best next time. Next slide. So during the recovery of Hurricane Michael, we realized there was a need to develop a better way to communicate. Especially after, if you all have experienced a hurricane where, you've got long time recovery efforts, you got debris, you've got just a road that's washed out. It's going to take a while to repair it. So you send your folks out and you do an immediate damage assessment. Well, in our department, they like damage assessments, but they want to know when and how many signals are out. What's our rapid response? It kind of shifts from the devastation, and then it comes to the damage assessments are coming in. And then traffic operations in our department, we get hit with the what can we do right now? And what it always hits us first is these signals. We want them up. Our cameras on the interstates, we want them up. We want to see what is happening out there. And so it becomes a spotlight on our department to immediately react and create a communication tool, because it was very hard during Hurricane Michael. We lost communications. Our network was down. The day before Hurricane Michael hit, a dump truck hit our pole that killed our landlines just at our main office. So we had no phones and we had no internet service. And the provider we had on our cell phone, it was severed down in Bay County. And so we're back in the old days. I live an hour outside of where landfall hit. And so I had cell phone service for the provider I had, but when I went into the black hole, I had 0 service because the communication was down. But we're able to get another cell phone provider, and we use that as our hotspot. And we were able to start reaching out to whoever we can to hear, what's going on the outside world. And then the emails from our central office are like, what's going on? How many signals are out? How many are damaged that need permanent repairs? They want immediate live update. They want it now. They want to know how many generators report, how many teams we have out there working. And it was just such a overwhelming situation that we had to overcome. And so we just had to think outside the box, like, we can't go through this again. So let's figure out what can we do to make this an easier communication, because they already know that, when things go out, a bridge goes out, they know that it's going to be a long time for recovery, and they have some time to figure out how to manage those situations. But the one that they can do is get signals up and running, because the first thing people want to do is go out and look. And then what happens then is that we start getting all the power people coming. We get consultants, we get the contractors out there. So where the damage is becomes just multiplied effort of congestion, just people wanting to know what's going on. And so the first thing we have to do is get, our signals up and running. So I kind of went off on a tangent, but I just want to try to let you guys realize how it really hit us. Not just in our district, but at our main home base, our main headquarters. So we went through this, this theory of going through planning and proactive. We went through lessons learned, and we just had to find, what was the end goal? What would be the most effective way to get real-time data to whoever needs to know or wants to know what's going on? So, we reached out. So our GIS department, they had already started to develop an application to prepare these DDI reports, which I kind of said earlier, they're damage assessments that get sent to FEMA afterwards to get reimbursement. Well, we jumped on that bandwagon and said, let's get our signals in there, which they already had. They had all of our signals. Then it was, what can we do? Can we, further develop a dashboard that we send people out in the field to go take those assessments, go ahead and do, okay, this is damage. It's this light's flashing, this light's, we're putting up a generator. So we've got technical people to go out there and turn it on. So we just started, just brainstorming, trying to figure out the best way to get this one-stop communication hub or dashboard. So we also thought about what can we do, because Hurricane Michael, we just, there was appeared to be very slow to have our contractors out there repairing these traffic signals. So what other things can we do? Or the gas would run out the generator. So we reached out to all our consultants and said, you're going to be on this team and this team and this team. So if the contractors are falling behind, or you see a generator that's without a gas, go ahead and have those gas cans ready. You got oil, just go look at it. So we had a 2-layer type of situation where we have our contracts, where we have our folks out there that's doing the work, but we added layers to try to improve that response. Next slide. So like I said, our approach began working with our GIS department, along with our consultants, to develop, it's called a data collection application, which we called it as a collector app. Once we created this application, we installed it on the approved iPhones and iPads. And for the established teams, we had 2 teams. We had one that was a damage assessment team and a situational awareness team. Our damage assessment teams, we had specialized just for traffic signals in ITS. We had our own team, our other departments, they had their teams, but we had to have technical signal experts that can go out there and open a cabinet, be able to see if the head is turned. Do we want to put this, put this in flash? Is the yellow facing the correct way, or do we put it dark? We asked FHP to help us out. So those are our specialized DAT teams that went out there, and they, the first pass was, what is the immediate thing that they can do? Put it in there, put it in the collection app, and keep moving on. We had teams that went to corridors. And this application was built on the Esri ArcGIS cloud platform and Esri Online, and that connected to the live dashboard. Next slide. So as mentioned before, the tool was created after Hurricane Michael. So 2 years later, Hurricane Sally hit, and we were able to test and modify the dashboard to the specific areas. Hurricane Michael, like it was large, global, several counties, we were able to focus our dashboard down to the 4 counties. We had the 2 most western, the Escambia and Santa Rosa, and then Okaloosa and Walton, the other 2 that were just on the other side of those 2 counties. We were gonna go ahead and just send folks out there to see if there's any signal damage. But then this dashboard and tool was wonderful. That then we were able to focus down on the 2 counties that had the damage, and the other 2 were able to go drive by it, see, check they were good, they were green. You'll see in a minute what I mean by green. And then we're able to kind of take them off our dashboard and focus on the area. So that preparation process enabled us to have our whole district ready to go, and then focused in on that first pass of situational of our SAT teams went out there, and we're able to focus on, okay, now we know these are the 2 counties we've got to focus on and put all of our resources on. And like I said, the hurricane hit about the Alabama-Florida state line. Now, even though it was a Cat 2, it was a slow mover, and it had a lot of rainfall. We had up to 24 inches in 24 hours. Some places up to 30 inches. And like I said, it was very slow. And so wind damage wasn't the major well, it was to the signals, but not only did we have some damage from our traffic signals, but we had flooding rivers, and we had a bridge that was actually in construction, and it was one of our main corridors for travel going through back and work the two cities. And I'm going to get to that at the end of the slide, but I want you guys to hear is that when this bridge was damaged, we had the flooding rivers, and then we had to implement an emergency detour. And so then the flooding rivers were affecting our detour because it was compromising 3 bridges in the 2 other counties that we would have to push detours further east. So when it was a regular 7-minute commute from Gulf Breeze to Pensacola, it became over an hour. And I'll get to that at the end of this presentation, but I just wanted to show you that at the end of this, we'll be talking about a detour, but all this affects that. So next slide. So as previously mentioned, we established the DAT teams and the SAT teams. The DATs, the technical folks, and the SAT teams were non-technical. It was more or less, what is the status of the light? Is it in flash? If it's in operations, is it dark? Or is it completely damaged? It's going to be dark for a while. So our DAT teams are staffed with our traffic signal specialists or technicians to record the damage, and the STAT teams were mostly our in-house folks to monitor and record the status. And they were around the clock. They were rotating. We assigned certain teams to certain corridors that they would post, if that signal, what that status was, and that the result, you could see it on a live dashboard. So once the teams were out there, they were put the information in the collector application, and then the dashboard was, published live. Now we already assumed that if there was damage and they couldn't have communications, that the application was allowed to have our folks enter the data. And then so our requirement was an update in the morning and the afternoon. So what they did, that if they couldn't get the live data pushed, that the expectation was you'll see it by 6 o'clock in the evening, because if they had all the collections done out in the field, then they would drive to an area that had internet and then able to push it to the dashboard, and it would update by that evening. Next slide. So here's our dashboard, and this is the snapshot in time about probably less than a week. And like I said, the damage was focused on the 2 counties, and the total of those counties were around 300 traffic signals on the state road system. And in less than a week, we had 95% of those signals back up in operations. Be part of the teams that were the technical folks that were able just to some minor tweaks. They, got the generator hooked up, it's got gas, it's got oil, and all they did was get the cabinet, adjusted and whatever they needed to do. So that was a huge improvement compared to Michael, which it was probably months till we got 95%, but that was because of the devastation of the damage. So the application was very easy to use. It provided capability in capturing data offline. They could be synced into the area once they got Wi-Fi. The data was captured and displayed in real time, which allowed everyone to be aware of the situation on ground, and the damage was assessed efficiently with no confusion or duplicity. The color scheme, which I'm going to show you guys here in the next slide, is we assumed that all the signals were, okay, not the next slide, maybe two from now, but all of them were grayed out. So we had a true change. It was, so when they went out there, they would, we had certain corridors, they would then change it from gray to either red, it was dark, yellow, it was in flash, or green, it was functioning. So within 2 days, all of our signals were assessed, and you'll be able to see that in the video I'm going to show in a minute, very short video. You'll see how it changed in real time. Okay, next slide. So it's hard to read, apologize, but I'll be really brief. On the dashboard side where, the managers and people want to know what's going on, you were able to zoom in on this dashboard and focus on whatever signal you want to look at. And it would pull up a report, and the report is actually the field collection, the field folks in the field, sorry, the folks in the field that collected all the information, what was going on. Like it included the date of the site visit, the team members, the signal status, the power source, if it had a generator or not, is it still using, commercial power, is a commercial power on? The level of signal damage. It included like pictures, like this one was a picture of the cabinet. And we also included pictures, from the signal heads themselves. So it provided so much information, and then it was able to push out based on what you wanted to see. Like if you look here on the right side of the table that shows the table here to the right, it shows you how many are on the state's signals. Like first, Escambia County, we have 225. Within a week, we had 201 green. They're up and running. We had 15 still in flash, and then 9 were damaged. And it, gave you a total percentage of where we were at any given time. And then also had, how many generators were there. And at the bottom was another graph that I thought was very useful, was looking at the difference, the green and the red and the yellow. So it became a tool that we were able to use our consultant that said, hey, move it this way, shift it this way, and make this one a little bit clearer. Or we had so many opportunities to try it to probably every hour or so, we tweaked it to what showed best to what we thought management or the outside folks wanted to know. So it was a great tool when it came to that. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to ask our folks that's controlling this to first of all do it once, and then probably one more time, and I'll explain. So don't do it again. So what you'll see is the tracking mechanism to the right. Those are the 9 days, and the tick in between would be like the afternoon report. And so you see she puts the video on again, not yet, you'll if you can slowly look at it, you see all the grays and the greens start coming, and then you'll see the yellows and the reds. So if you want to click that video again. So I found that impressive. That to me just showed visually how we were able to recover, opposed to how we did with Michael. Was I send out we had an Excel spreadsheet, and every morning and afternoon I wrote a table, and I basically presented, these are how many signals are on the six. It was very difficult to present what really shows to you in this video. That just it became like, wow, this is great. This is something that anybody can use with the right data input and feel on the ground. Next slide. Okay, so this is where I was telling you that we had a detour. So because of the resiliency, the department was able to successfully implement an emergency detour route associated with a bridge closure. As previously mentioned, this major bridge was severely damaged, and an emergency detour had to be established along the arterial. Note the location of the bridge. If you look at the bottom left corner, that's where the bridge was. Well, bridge is still there, but it's damaged. And so that commute, if you look at the Gulf Breeze down at the bottom, that's kind of hidden. And then you got Pensacola. We started looking at, all the travel time data, what was before, what was after. So just, I'll give you a little briefing of what it was. So that bridge is approximately 3 miles long with an ADT of 57,000. It's a major commuter route between these two cities and also is a route of significance. RTMC started recording the travel times between Gulf Breeze, which is at the far bottom to the left, and through the detour all the way to Pensacola. And and if you notice, we had some major things we started trying to enhance at the 3 locations at 1, 2, and 3. And you'll probably want to come back to that if anybody has any questions, but next slide. We had worked with consultants and contractors to immediately start looking at adjusting our signal timings along that arterial corridor. We actually installed a new signal head. It was back at that number 1 where the interstate and that detour was required. And we had to have a full signal head to allow a full turn left-hand movement. We also had added 2 additional cameras at that interchange because management wanted to see that intersection live and not have to ask the operators to move. So we had, and even on FL511, it showed all 3 cameras. You had one that was just looking at the interstate, and the other 2 were, up and down either side of the interchange. So we started looking at what things we needed to do to enhance the travel time because of the detour. Next slide. Some other things that we added was widening exit shoulder ramp. We added road rangers along the detour. We used some emergency trailers that had CCTV cameras where we didn't have a camera down at the bottom right corner along 98. Management wanted to see that signal because we had a hard during peak hours. It just backed up on the interstate up at the north side. We had those cameras there, but then we had backup on 98, and a whole lot of neighborhoods were complaining and they couldn't get on 98 because we gave too much screen time to the main highway. We started decreasing their green time, and you can't. From one of my past coworkers, like if you've pissed everybody off, then you're doing it right. But if you got one that's always mad, then you got to do some adjustment out there. So we had to do some adjustments at that signal. We extended that turn lane to add more capacity. There were just several things that we did, and I know this slide is a little busy, but hopefully if you want to go back and look at it, you'll be able to see all the things that we added. But of course, in Disseminator, we had variable message boards, we had our DMS boards, we had a lot of updates to the travelers and let them know that, they had to use this detour to go to Gulf Breeze because a lot of people usually come through Pensacola to go to the Gulf Breeze. So we had to make sure we had DMSs far enough to the east and far enough to the west to make sure people didn't miss that exit to go down the detour to go to Gulf Breeze opposed to the usually way. Next slide. So here's a busy slide, but I hope you guys do see some benefit to this. It's hard to kind of look at, but you'll be able to kind of hone in. Prior to the bridge being closed, the AM and the peak travel times between Pensacola and Gulf Breeze is around 7 to 8 minutes. This graphic illustrates the average peak period from the first day the detour began through the implementation, all the things that we added, like the turn lane, the extension, the signal head, like I was saying before. And you'll be able to go back to this prior slide and see what improvements we did when, and you'll be able to look at that. So you'll see that the original couple days when the bridge detour was implemented with 0 strategies implemented because we were working on the signals, it was over an hour. When people were used to the 7 minutes, but even though it was over an hour, an average time, if you had that route, you wanted to take that route just for fun of it, it took about 40 minutes with a typical day. But with our improvements, people were complaining about an hour and 6 minutes after they're used to 7 minutes. It's like, okay, what can we get down to the most? What can we do to get it down as much as we can? And so adding those TSM&O strategies, arterial management, everything that we could do to reduce the travel time. That's what we did. And it shows you, a slowdown where it went from about an hour and 6 minutes all the way down to 40 to 49 minutes. And so that to us was the best way we could use our outside of the box thinking on what we could do to decrease the travel time. Next slide. Oh, that's it. But if you guys have any questions or have anything follow up on, you'll have my information, but it was a very useful tool that we thought that we'd like to share with you guys. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Amy. That graphic just blows my mind. So thank you for sharing that with us, and really neat what you all were able to do. I completely get it. There's traveler information and then there's management situational awareness, and they don't want the same thing. So it is really challenging. Let's see. I don't see any questions in the chat box. Does anyone have a question for Amy?
Amy, I think that what'll happen too sometimes, this is Denise, that sometimes the questions will show up later and we may send them out to you for answer. You're standing between everybody and lunch.
Right. I got it. I understand.
Well, everyone, thank you so much I want to thank our presenters today, Rick and Russ, Paul and Amy and John. Thank you all so much for sharing your knowledge and your enthusiasm with us. We appreciate that. And this information, the recording, the presentations, the Q&A will all be posted to the Coalition website, and you will get an email when that's done, and there'll be a link in there and you'll be able to just click. I look forward to sharing a lot of these things with people in my agency, our maintenance people, our service patrol people, lots of great content that we can all share with others in our agency. So with that, Terry Johnson said, Amy, great presentation. So with that, we will conclude our meeting for today, and thank you all and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.